How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hopefully everyone's having a lovely day. So the Cincinnati Reds 12-game win streak, a historic win streak, something that hasn't been done by this Reds franchise in over half a century, ended Saturday night against the Atlanta Braves. What a win streak it was, though. This is a Reds team 2 months ago recording the worst attendance in Great American Ballpark history. Fast forward to now, they're selling out 2 straight games in this series against Atlanta. First place in the division. First place in the division versus first places in the division matchup. The 2 hottest teams in baseball squaring off against each other in the biggest stage of them all, really, for the Reds so far this season. I mean, obviously, biggest stage playoffs, but for the Reds, we've seen this before where we say, hey, Reds, big games. When the big series come around, when they need to win the games, they've squandered them away. These past few opportunities they've had, just in Reds' recent history, not just this season. You go into a game against the Braves, again, best team versus best team in baseball at the moment, for, again, how hot they are. You sell out Great American Ballpark, and this team comes from behind and comes up with a big W. And then they lose the following night. Nonetheless, elly cruz, last 7 days, batting .520. Joey Votto comes back, 3 home runs in his first week back. Hunter Green goes down. They've been doing this without Lodolo. The resiliency of this team, especially from an offensive standpoint, it makes watching games fun. It makes watching them exciting. And I thought of the comparison. It's like this Cincinnati Reds offense as a collective unit right now feels a lot like having Joe Burrow on your team in football. You know, it doesn't matter how much the points the defense gives up, doesn't matter how many runs the offense gives up or the pitching staff gives up. You feel like this offense as a collective unit is capable of getting back into any baseball game. And that makes for some fun and exciting baseball to watch. Nonetheless, I think that's where we stare at from this point on forward. If you're the Reds, if you're Reds fans here saying, hey, 12-game win streak, love it. Put them in a position to make playoffs, put them in a position to win a division. Now, the difference in a serious contender and the difference in a pretender is, can they sustain winning after a 12-game win streak? We've seen it before. It happens with a lot of teams, especially the 500 teams, the not so great teams. The Pirates did start the season, started off on absolute fire, and then they fell apart. So the question is, as our team that just won 12 straight, can they now? They're going to lose some baseball games. It's going to happen. You win every game. But can you now see the Reds say, hey, next 10 games, can they go 6-4? Can they go 7-3? Maybe even 5-5. But the last thing you want to do is go 3-7, 2-8. You know, you don't want to trend the wrong direction after going and ripping off all of these wins. If you want to sustain success, they have to keep winning baseball games. That's what you look for, I think. I think that's big. I think that's big for this collective. But I gotta say, first of all, before we get to the reason what we're going to be glaring at, obviously, for the Reds if they want to keep winning baseball games, I'll be honest, I'm still not sure how I feel about him. Not the biggest of David Bell fans. We can question some of his managerial decisions. Fact of the matter is, there was the Newman one on Saturday. It was like, why was Newman still in against the righty? Especially when you had guys on the bench on absolute fire. But for the most part, it's really easy as fans to sit on the couch and just micro-analyze every single small move a manager makes. And, kind of gloss over the good moves being made too. But you know what? I mean, you kind of, at this point in time, you kind of have to start looking at David Bell and saying, hey, look, there's one thing about Tampa Bay right now, best team in baseball. It's been the best team in baseball that's been working for them, is they like to give their guys days off. Their young guys are playing frequently days off. Their veterans obviously getting a lot of days off. In baseball history, a lot of times these young guys, they're playing 160, 162 games a season. And, you wondered that with David Bell the past few seasons, giving guys days off, frequently kind of platooning guys and saying, is this going to work? But, I mean, you have to give this guy credit and say he's found guys that can make that system work. He's found it to make, again, keeping their bats fresh, keeping these guys locked in and focused and keeping them on their toes. And, again, you got to give David Bell credit for here is, remember the beginning of the season? Remember at the beginning of the season, this team was getting obliterated, but they started the tradition of the Viking helmet, the cape, the jacket, whatever you want to call it. They started that tradition with the home runs. As a manager, David Bell, it's very easy, especially in the sport of baseball where, you're not allowed to express yourself as much. It's just tradition. Personally not a fan. amp them up out there. I want to see some excitement. Makes the game exciting. Anyway, as a manager, he could have very easily shot that down and say, hey, we're young. We got to focus. We got to win these games. We're struggling right now. It's not time to play. Let's be serious. But he didn't. And it tells you the culture. It tells you what he's trying to build in this locker room. He said, nah, have fun with it. Enjoy it. Create the tradition. Play loose. Which is probably the most important part of it all, especially for your young hitters. Is he said, I'm doing my best to let them play the way they do. I'm going to let them best to express themselves, enjoy themselves, have fun on the field. Because when you're having fun on the field, you're having fun in the dugout, you know, there's loose vibes across the clubhouse. You're less likely to go up to that plate nervous, tense, you know, feel like you're under pressure, worried about every single at bat. You play loose, you play a little bit more confident. And you have to give David Bell credit for, again, endorsing that sort of behavior on this team. So credit to David Bell there. Let's talk about this Reds team, what we're worried about, though. And, you know, it's something David Bell can't do too much about. And that's this starting pitching staff. Until Hunter Green comes back, Lodolo's might not be back till August. I mean, there's a lot of guys on this rotation with the side, besides one or two, you'd say they don't really belong on a major league starting rotation. And we've seen that. Again, younger guys, hopefully they can start to put things together. But we've seen that even in this win streak, it was just how good this offense was. Giving up 6 runs, giving up 7. They won a game 10-11. This Reds ball club has not lost a baseball game where their pitching staff has allowed 4 or fewer runs since May 25th. Again, the bats have been hot. If they can figure out the pitching, that is so important here. And hey, that's kind of what the difference in what I always like to say, the difference in a really good ball club and the difference in a bad ball club is a bad ball club. What we've seen the Reds do in years past is when the bats are doing good, you know, the bullpen's falling apart or the starting rotation's falling apart, or when the bullpen finally figures things out, the bats can't get any runs or the starting rotation can't do anything. But what a good club does is when you say, okay, this pitching staff is struggling right now, the bats are going to pick it up. And when the pitching staff and the bats start to struggle, I should say, the pitching staff picks it up. You kind of have a healthy rotation there, a 2/3 rule, if you will. 2/3 of your, you know, either bullpen, your starting rotation, or your bullpen, your bats, whatever, they're collectively playing well, and they're picking up the other one. There's a little slack. And this Reds offense, it's going to cool off. It's going to happen. And when they're scoring 2-3 runs a game, you know, can we see this starting rotation put together some quality starts? This starting rotation carry this team to a couple wins. That's going to be the difference, I think, here. This starting rotation has to figure it out. And if they do, this Reds baseball, I mean, crazy to say it, but I mean, there really isn't a dominant team in baseball this year that you're really afraid of in the National League. If their pitching staff can figure it out, especially come year's end. I mean, it's a young team, you never know in playoffs, but anything can happen with an offensive firepower or an offensive powerhouse that this Reds offense has become. We'll see. Love you guys' thoughts. It's an exciting time to be a Reds fan. No, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.